Vision is the bedrock for productive and exceptional leadership. It cannot be borrowed. It is a product of painstaking self-development with rigorous mental exercise over time. These ingredients make some excel wherever they show up. Join us on this journey with Professor Abubakar O.Sulaiman at the Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies in the last 1 year. The National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILDS, is an agency of the National Assembly established by an Act of the Assembly on the 2nd of March 2011. Its precursor was the Policy Analysis and Research Project, which was funded by the World Bank through the Africa Capacity Building Foundation (ACBF) between 2004 and 2011. The Institute's core mandate is to build the capacity of legislators, parliamentary staff, and legislative aides, and provide technical support to the legislature in Nigeria, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS Parliament, and national parliaments in the sub-region, as well as the entire continent. To this end, the Institute provides capacity building through activities such as trainings, exchange of experience visits, postgraduate programs, and high-level policy advocacy. Additionally, the Institute provides legislative support services to the legislature through drafting of bills, motions, briefs of argument, and technical output such as policy analysis, information briefs, research, and statistics. Other activities of the Institute include creating of networks, internship and twinning programs, as well as mentorship. On January 26, 2018, President Muhammadu Buhari signed the NILDS Amendment Act 2017, which expanded the scope of the Institute to provide capacity development services to other democratic institutions of governance in Nigeria, including political parties, CSOs, media organizations, political appointees, and other political office holders. The amendment also renamed it as the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILDS. Some of the functions spelled out for the Institute by the Enabling Act and the Amendment Act 2017 are as follows. From its humble beginning, the Institute has grown into a reputable capacity-building organization, expanding its research beyond the National Assembly and extending to state houses.
NILDS should focus on developing templates for advanced legislations to meet the challenges of a changing world order, especially in the application of science and technology in legislation, legislative practices, and oversight. Model laws should be developed in critical areas for adoption by state assemblies for the good of their states. Also, protocols in good governance for multilateral organizations such as United Nations, African Union, and ECOWAS should be mainstreamed into our local legislation with NILDS as its facilitator.
On the 28th of May 2019, the responsibility of managing the Institute and providing leadership was thrust on Abubakar O.Sulaiman, a renowned professor of political science and international relations, a former Minister for National Planning and Deputy Chairman, National Planning Commission, a technocrat and quintessential administrator. Professor Sulaiman had spent over 2 decades in teaching and research at the University of Abuja before his appointment as a minister in 2014 by President Goodluck Jonathan. His appointment as the second Director General of the Institute was in consideration of his achievements, sterling qualities, visionary clarity, and academic pedigree. In all his previous positions, Professor Sulaiman had served with distinction and excellence. He therefore brought to the job a blend of academic and practical experience. The justification for the choice of Professor Sulaiman was strongly underlined by the President of the Senate, Dr. Ahmed Lawan, CON, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, the Chairman and alternate Chairman of the Institute's Governing Council at the inauguration of the Council on the 12th of December 2019.
NILDS that started quite some time ago when we came to the National Assembly has transformed tremendously, and in fact it is still going to transform, because as our needs as legislators and as parliaments are dynamic, so would be the activities of NILDS. So we cannot afford to waste any time but work as a council to give NILDS the kind of support that it requires, to continue to give us the capacity development for the National Assembly, State House of Assembly, and the Nigerian public who will be stakeholders in what we do.
I want to commend the Director General, who so far has done commendably well in the affairs of the Institute. So I commend you for what you're doing, for your giant strides so far.
The rich pedigree of Professor Sulaiman and his intellectual as well as political sagacity have equally been brought to bear in his capacity as DG of NILDS. From the onset, Professor Sulaiman set out his vision for the Institute, which was to consolidate on the gains of the organization in its first 8 years and to expand its scope and activities to reach subnational democratic institutions, improve visibility for the Institute, and strengthen linkages with similar organizations and international as well as domestic development partners. In the last 1 year, Professor Sulaiman has led the Institute through an unprecedented period of growth and expansion in all aspects of its mandate. In line with his vision to reposition the Institute as an internationally celebrated center of research, training and capacity building, Professor Sulaiman embarked on an organizational reform and expansion. Existing departments were streamlined and strengthened, while additional departments were created to enable the Institute effectively deliver on its expanded mandate.
I shall improve on the existing structures in academic contents, physical structures, and capacity building of legislatures and legislative aids. The academic component of our mandates will be developed to an enviable world-class standard. We will inculcate academic culture and expand and improve on the existing academic programs such that the quality of our researches will address the existing legislative and democratic challenges of our nation. I hope to expand, with your support and cooperation, our directorates, departments, and units to accommodate such things as academic planning, administration, maintenance, physical development. It is my belief that this expansion will better our services.
There has been a reorganization of the Institute by creating more departments to enhance performance, because initially it was a very small organization. But when he came, it was part of vision to ensure that more departments are created so that the Institute will be in a better position, will be put in good stead to deliver on its mandate. The department I currently oversee is called Department of Administration and Human Resources. Basically, the department exists as a support department. It supports other departments of the Institute to deliver on their core mandates.
The current DG, Professor Abubakar O.Sulaiman, with the approval of the Council, upgraded the library to a full-fledged department. The library has resources in a wide range of disciplines, including legislative studies, economics, political science, law, sociology, public administration, history, among many other disciplines.
An organization is only as good as its workforce, including its technical capacity, as well as the level of motivation and commitment.
We came with visions on what we intend to achieve. We try to remind ourselves on why we exist as an institute, our mandate, our responsibility as the academic development hub, not of National Assembly alone, but for all democratic institutions in this country. We should be thinking, broadly. We should have a holistic world outlook. How do we put our services at the mercy of other African countries? How will other African countries enjoy our services? How do we think beyond our immediate environments? If Nigeria as a country, our government is playing a leading role in Africa, by extension, in the affairs of its kind in Africa, we must play that role too.
With this understanding, Professor Sulaiman embarked on the reorganization and strengthening of internal capacity at the Institute as he positioned staff to perform better and improve the quality of the support they provide to the legislature. For the first time in the history of the Institute, a training calendar was drawn to ensure that all staff benefit from either local or international training in the core areas of their competencies.
And you have staff that, yes, are there to train, but himself is not well trained. We facilitate training for legislature, for other stakeholders. But staff of NILDS were not trained. You are not enjoying that, opportunity. So I set the ball rolling. The first thing I needed to do was to look internally. What are the issues? What are the problems? How do we devise internal mechanism to address most of these, lingering grievances of my staff? I set up a committee to look into the issue of staff progressions, career progressions, people that had issue of promotion. We look at them dispassionately, and they were adequately promoted. People that were not well positioned, we look at them in terms of the level they were, and it was well addressed.
The Institute has already begun to benefit from this policy, as several staff of the organization have utilized the knowledge gained through these trainings to impact on the mandate delivery of the Institute.
I've had a couple of trainings. One of it was on the equipment and systems that are being installed. We've gone for firefighting, training on the firefighting installations, on the HVAC, and also as part of the asset management and also facility management. I've had some kind of training in terms of contract management, administration, and all that.
And I was on the training sponsored by the Institute in December, and I went to Dubai for a whole week, and it was a week of intensive training. And we were there on the course called titled Translating Policy into Legislation. It was so targeted at our job, at the job we do, and it exposed us more, to discharge our job with more efficiency.
We came up with a training calendar, which is a first in the history of NILDS, where 95% of staff have gone on national, but mostly international training programs. Now that has not only given them a boost, but it shows that the DG is committed to capacity building for staff. Like they say, charity begins at home. If NILDS as a training institution is to go out there and carry out its mandate effectively, it means that its staff must be well equipped to do that. And that is why he gave that priority, to ensure that staff are well trained or better trained so that they can improve on their skills and competencies.
Professor Sulaiman has also addressed many of the lingering challenges affecting staff morale in the Institute, including issues of promotion, proper placement, training and retraining, general staff welfare, and incentives.
The DG, when he assumed duty, during his takeover statement, he said he's going to make welfare a priority. And welfare had been a priority of the DG. We've been able to work with the DG in such a way that we don't use the Institute fund meant for different programs
to promote welfare alone. But however, we were able to, within the limited resources that was earmarked for welfare, take care of welfare activities of staff. If you look at it, the institute work more than some private organizations. We come to the office early, we work throughout the day, and we close late. On the basis of that, we presented a memo to the DG that yes, we should look at the issue of hardship allowance for staff because of the nature of work. We got approval, and today we'll be able to get that hardship allowance. It's just a way of promoting that welfare issue to staff.
A staff audit committee was inaugurated by the Director General to examine human resource issues and make recommendations for implementation. By tackling the deep-seated concerns and grievances of staff, the DG has been able to boost staff morale, improve workplace harmony, and engender a positive organizational culture at the Institute.
One of the principal reasons for this assignment is to reposition the Institute for stability and for internal control, which is very, very important in any organization.
The Professor of Political Science and International Relations has also supported initiatives aimed at promoting bonding between staff. These include the end-of-year staff get-together, which provides opportunity for staff to meet and interact in a relaxed, informal atmosphere, meet family members of colleagues, as well as the monthly sports day, which enables staff to participate in and enjoy some fun amidst teamwork games. A monthly newsletter has also been introduced to disseminate information on the Institute's activities to all staff. In an effort to improve professionalism at the Institute and give it an international foothold, Professor Sulaiman sought the approval of Council in his first few months as Director General to holistically review and update the Institute's scheme of service and administrative manual in line with good practices in both the Nigeria Public Service and internationally. He constituted a 7-man committee chaired by an accomplished bureaucrat, a former permanent secretary and chief of staff to the President of the Senate, Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed. It is expected that the recommendations made by the committee would have major implications on the operations of the Institute and the National Assembly as a whole.
Our primary mandate was to review the scheme of service and also the manual, the administrative manual of NILDS. If you look at the committee, which was chaired by Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed, all the members, have diverse backgrounds, but that are related to the subject matter of our assignment. For personnel generally, they are concerned with advancement on the job and fairness also. If people believe that you are fair and they know that when there is opportunity, they will be adequately rewarded, they will put in their best. So it is our belief that going forward, NILDS will likely have more motivated workers. Because of this, you are going to have increased productivity.
One of the key objectives of the Institute is to provide support services in the lawmaking process with a view to enhancing the quality of legislation. To ensure the quality and effectiveness of laws, NILDS has been actively involved in the following: drafting of bills and motions, bills analysis and scrutiny, as well as issue or sector briefs and data.
We draft bills for the National Assembly. We help to scrutinize bills that may have been drafted elsewhere. And then, of course, all bills that have been advertised in the journals of the National Assembly, we also subject them to bill analysis. The idea is to maintain a level of quality control and also assure that what we eventually come out meets with the end of promoting good governance. We also engage in legislative research. The context is to ensure that whatever it is that we are advising the National Assembly based on research and evidence.
Part of what I do here include analysis of bills to deduce socio-economic implications of proposed laws before they become law, that is, so that to point out to legislators, if this law is passed, this is the socio-economic cost. If it's not passed, this is the socio-economic cost, and things like that. So not just me, but my colleagues and I, and the entire structure of the institute puts hand into that kind of work to ensure that it gets to the targeted principles. We influence policy directly, and we don't do that because of our state of origin or skin color. We do that because of our capacity, what we've learned over time, and the ability to put it into technical use.
The Institute similarly provides legislative support to committees of both the Senate and the House of Representatives.
It's a good thing that we have such an institute, because for any democratic process to evolve, institute like the Nigerian Institute of Legislative Studies is required. And so far so good, the role that the National Institute of Legislative Studies have played in our democratic process as it affects the legislative arm of the government cannot be but overemphasized. My own personal encounter with this office has been on 3 different occasions. One is on a motion concerning the differentials in the interest rates between the lending and the deposit rates. It was a fantastic research being done by the Institute, and the end product of it was well celebrated by my colleagues, and even the Senate agreeing with me on the issue being raised concerning the exchange rate difference as far as their country is concerned. And I commend the office that does this fantastic work in trying to put that issue in the front burner.
I recall that not quite long ago, there was a training program for legislative aides of National Assembly members, and of course my aides also benefited from that training. I keep saying this over and over. The capacity of a lawmaker to function as desired by constituents is a function of the capacity of those that are working with him. It's not a business that he has to do or she has to do alone. So I commend NILDS for that initiative, a training and retraining program that they have for members of the National Assembly and of course the aides.
Within the first 4 years I was here in National Assembly, from 8th Assembly, I had a lot of inputs from NILDS in terms of all the bills that I had in the 8th Assembly. Most of them, I never knew if you submit your bill, to be moved on the floor of the House, that they send a copy to NILDS. NILDS will evaluate that bill and then make their own comments and offer professional advice.
In his 1 year as Director General, Professor Sulaiman has considerably strengthened the Institute's capacity to solicit and process requests from lawmakers. The Institute's liaison office at the National Assembly has been reorganized and strengthened towards the realization of this objective, owing to this reform.
When he came in as a DG, one of the first things he did was to say, if we are servicing the National Assembly, or if we are to service them effectively, then they should know that we are there. Now, we offer 2 types of services. One is demand-driven, one is supply-driven. However you look at it, the people that you are supposed to supply the services to have to know that you are there. And so, when he came in, we expanded the liaison office in the National Assembly. We now have 1 liaison office in the House, 1 in the Senate. We also have more people that have been posted there at research fellow level. They give on-the-spot assessment and support to lawmakers, but they also take requests. So a lot of the time we get drafting requests, whether it's to draft a bill or to draft a motion or to undertake a bill analysis and so on and so forth, and they bring it to the Institute for our experts to work on and then transmit back to the National Assembly.
The Institute has drafted 64 bills and tracked another 25. It also analyzed 226 bills and scrutinized another 20. Experts at the Institute also drafted 64 motions and briefs of argument and lead debate in the last 1 year. NILDS also provides analytical services to the legislature, which includes sound, unbiased, objective and authoritative analysis for legislators and committees. Given the academic background of the DG, The scope of research in the Institute has greatly expanded, and the quality of the Institute's analytical services has significantly improved. In the last 1 year, the organization has conducted 125 policy analyses, 296 issues, sector and data briefs, as well as 31 research papers. Through these activities, the Institute has continued to build the knowledge of legislators and improve the effectiveness of the legislature as an institution and independent arm of government.
In my 9 years in the National Assembly, I can attribute a significant portion to NILDS by way of not just the formal training they offer, but the informal services they provide. I can tell you categorically, I have taken a lot of issues to NILDS, particularly legal drafting, drafting of motions, over 100 over the last 5 years. And it is very enlightening that a lot of the things that I take is not only for them to contribute and put flesh to what I want, they try to do what is called legislative scrutiny, to inform me whether that bill is relevant or is not relevant, where it is supposed to be, if there are adjustments that need to be done, this is how it should be done. I think I have benefited tremendously from the services that NILDS have been given to members, which I believe without it, we wouldn't have been able to be where we are today.
Other support activities of the Institute during the period included the following: assisting the Appropriation, Finance and Public Accounts Committees in analyzing the annual appropriation bills and Auditor General's report, providing quarterly budget implementation reports to relevant committees, review and monitoring of the legislative agenda of the 9th Assembly, support to strategic committees in the National Assembly, and review of the Oronsai report on rationalization and restructuring of federal ministries, departments and agencies of government. The Institute has developed a reputation as the foremost capacity building institution in Nigeria, the ECOWAS sub-region and beyond. Through its national and international training programs, it continues to enhance the capacity of legislators and staff as well as other democratic actors to become more effective in carrying out their mandate.
International training is one of the major things that we do as an institute, as a way of capacity building for legislators and legislative staff. Now, over the years, a number of legislators have benefited from international trainings, which are usually made up of short courses. Short courses are usually for 5 to 7 days, and exchange of experience visits to other parliaments. That is for legislators. For legislative staff, we also have these same short courses, as well as other avenues where they can exchange experience with their counterparts the world over.
You can clearly see quality across board. When you talk about NILDS, what comes to mind is quality. What comes to mind is just pure class of the manpower of the faculty team that we have here. We have subject areas from very diverse academic backgrounds, professional backgrounds, who we actually use to deliver these programs as our resource persons. So that I think the work speaks for itself when people tend to come on our training.
Carefully thought out strategies have been implemented by the Institute to improve the quality of its training activities and to expand its reach, especially to state houses of assembly across the country. In the last 1 year, a total of 319 federal and state legislators, including senators, members of the House of Representatives, and members of state assemblies, have benefited from the Institute's training programs.
NILDS taught me on the steps and strategies to undergo when you are doing oversight. But NILDS were able to propound about 40 items through which oversight needs to cover. And I benefited a lot. Today, most committee takes me for oversight as a consultant. That's one of another benefit I've taken from this.
To measure how impactful a training is, we will only refer to the kind of people who were used to do or carry out this training, the facilitators, and the resource person that was used in this regard. And I must commend them that so far so good. We've not had any cause to regret. It has been qualitative. It has been very inspiring. We have learned one or two things, even though the business of lawmaking demands you to sit and read and work and research.
We received training as incoming legislators. We received training from them. And I didn't miss a single training because it was quite, loaded and very educative. And even my staff, the training for our legislative aides, I made sure that my staff also attend. And then that of our committee, coming to the Electoral Matters Committee, our clerk, I made sure that, he is always there during the training.
Some of the high-profile training activities for legislators included a round table for Conference of Speakers, which had over 30 speakers in attendance, and retreats for chairmen of standing committees of the House of Representatives. The Institute has also invested heavily in the training of parliamentary staff. This includes a total of 399 legislative staff of the National Assembly and the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. These training programs consisted of workshops and seminars, short-term courses, conferences and retreats, exchange of experience visits, and dialogue sessions. In realization of the role played by the legislative bureaucracy in providing essential support to legislators, both in the chambers and in committees, Professor Sulaiman has emphasized capacity development for committee clerks and official reporters.
For legislative, I know we've been undergoing trainings that NILDS have been organizing. Yes, even the other cadres, I'm aware that NILDS have been organizing programs for them, because as the committee clerk, I should know most of the supporting staff of the committees go to NILDS for one training or the other. So NILDS have been there for the committee system of the National Assembly.
An important focus of the DJ has been on strengthening the relationship between the Institute's management and the management of the National Assembly, headed by the clerk to the National Assembly, Muhammad Ataba Sani Omolori. One of the DJ's first steps was to organize a joint management retreat for the Institute and the National Assembly, which not only cemented the relationship between the two organizations, but also resulted in far-reaching agreements on how best the Institute can better service the National Assembly.
From the foregoing, it goes without saying that the need for the two organizations to operate in unison in order to create a much-needed conducive atmosphere for a robust performance of the Nigerian legislature need no further emphasis. It is my view that the foregoing issues make this retreat not only important, but indeed inevitable. It is therefore my expectation that this retreat will provide a platform for appreciating the statutory and general operations of NILDS and NAS. To be able also to identify common challenges affecting the capacity of the two organizations to deliver efficient service to the institution of the legislature, and mapping out solutions to enhance our services to the legislative arm of government.
The DG has equally consolidated the Institute's linkages and collaboration with the National Assembly Service Commission, NASC, in line with its mandate to promote capacity building and strengthening services to sub-national legislatures. Professor Sulaiman, on assuming office as Director General, strengthened the Institute's linkages with governments at the subnational level with a specific intention of strengthening capacity for good governance at that level. The DG paid courtesy visits to several governors and their deputies, including those of Lagos, Akwa Ibom, Plateau, and many other states, and implored them to provide more support to the capacity development of the state legislatures.
To commend my brother, the Director General of the Institute,
if he had, he's my brother from Kwara, that's what I call him. What you're doing here today is that you're also setting the pace for how good governance will be from 2020.
As a result of these engagements, the partnership between the Institute and state assemblies have been strengthened. In the last 1 year, the Institute organized and conducted training for legislators of various state houses of assembly. A total of 18 such training activities were successfully conducted, with a total of 228 beneficiaries. States that benefited from such training activities in the first 12 months of Professor Sulaiman's administration include Zamfara, Kwara, Akwa Ibom, Kaduna, Bauchi, Ogun, Sokoto, Delta, Kogi, Benue, and staff of the office of the Borno State Governor. The Institute also trained personnel from all the State Assembly Service Commissions in the country on strategies for improving performance, achieving autonomy, and engendering financial autonomy. Other training initiatives organized by the Institute between 2019 and 2020 include the workshop in collaboration with the Nigeria Bar Association (NBA), workshop for councillors from the Federal Capital Territory, public lecture on Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, issues and implication for Nigeria, and public lecture on debt management, all of which were well attended by relevant stakeholders. One of the cardinal objectives of Professor Sulaiman upon assuming office was to increase visibility for the Institute and its activities beyond Nigeria. Consequently, the DG renewed old alliances with the ECOWAS Parliament and national parliaments in the sub-region, as well as other parliaments in Africa. This concerted advocacy and diplomacy resulted in several countries visiting and participating in the Institute's training programs in the last 1 year. These include legislators and staff from the National Assembly of Gambia, the Ugandan Parliament, and the Parliament of Ghana. The reputation of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies (NILDS) rests equally on the quality of its teaching and research. The diversity and excellence of the Institute's research is reflected in the quality of the teaching and in the range of its programs. The Institute runs specialized postgraduate programs that include Master's degree in Legislative Drafting, Parliamentary Administration and Legislative Studies, Elections and Party Politics. Other programs of the Institute include Higher National Diploma in Official Reporting. In view of his background in the academics and the over 2 decades he spent teaching and conducting research at the University of Abuja, Professor Sulaiman's administration in the last 1 year has been streamlining, expanding, and consolidating the Institute's postgraduate programs. Some of the concrete measures taken in this regard include the hiring and posting of more staff to the postgraduate schools, setting up of an academic advisory board made up of renowned academics headed by Professor Nuhu Yakub. Its core function is to ensure that the Institute's academic programs are of the highest quality and in line with global best practices.
Essentially, we are supposed to look at the academic content of the Institute, and when we came in, we discovered that quite a lot, as a matter of fact, has been done in terms of the activities of the Institute. In the first instance, there are programs, masters in legal drafting, a couple of other academic programs, and there is also already a partnership with the University of Benin. When we came, we look at the program, the content of the agreement, and we also look at some of the programs where we believe that there was a repetition. We put also advise on how to reconcile, and ensure that what is there is worthy of the certificate the students are going to get. And then the essence of actually having partnership is that both the institution, the university to which the institute is affiliated, both of them should actually have an advantage, mutual benefit.
The efforts of the DG and the special attention given to the Institute's postgraduate programs led to the renewal of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Institute and the University of Benin, UNIBEN. This also resulted in a sharp increase in the number of students enrolling for programs in the Institute, both from the National Assembly and beyond. For the 2018-2019 to 2019-2020 academic sessions, a total of 139 students have enrolled for the various programs of the Institute. Over 140 applications came in, but only 139 candidates were qualified and recommended. These include legislators, legislative staff serving in various capacities, committee clerks and staff, research staff, chamber staff, and drafters, as well as legislative aides. One unique feature of the postgraduate programs in the last 1 year is the number of national participants that have indicated interest in the Institute's academic programs and the thorough attendance to the admission process in line with National Universities Commission standard.
It is possible to get to the conventional universities and get degrees that will enhance your skills in working for all other arms of government, but not the legislature. That you are a lawyer, an economist, a political scientist does not qualify you to work in the legislature. You really need to professionalize the legislature, and that is one of the bases for having this master's program in place. In Nigeria today, there is no university, even our parent university, where parliamentary administration, legislative studies, and drafting are taught with respect to how they can be useful in the legislature. So ours is a unique school where we train people for the legislature and democracy. That is one. Then two, unlike other schools where they go on strike and so on, if not for the COVID, we have never missed a week in our calendar. We don't go on strike. And then our teachers will combine scholar-partner approach. That you are a professor or you have a PhD does not qualify you to teach. You must have some experience in the legislature before you can be one of our teachers. Now, the minimum you can have in our teaching staff is a PhD. All our teachers are professors and PhD holders with a lot of experience that you can find anywhere in the world. And the minimum qualification to be a student also is also very high. We don't just take anybody to be a student here because we are training people for greater achievement in life.
Here in this, you don't only have a professor, you have people who are in the field, and it's beyond the theory. You have Professor Jagai, you have Professor Igu, you have people that, you have a former speaker of the House of Reps. People will tell you that, see, what you read in paper, it is fine, you have read it, but in practical, this is how it is practiced. So you can't take that away from this, you can't get it anywhere.
The area that really helped us is the area of research, because we were taught the basic norms of research, how to generate data, how to analyze data, how to balance arguments. We're also fascinated by courses like legislative drafting, because we are now able to appreciate the key indicators and acid tests for a proposed legislation or the one that is to be amended. So we know how relevant are these laws, and we know the tests to apply to a proposed legislation. We know how to analyze bills. We'll be able to look at the order paper before plenary and make legislative briefs for our principal on what talking points based on facts.
It aided my job. It exposed me to a lot of techniques and skills that enables me to do my job effectively.
The Institute's third convocation ceremony was held on the 28th of October 2019, where 65 students were awarded various degrees under the NILDS UNIBEN postgraduate program. The President of the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, presided over the ceremony.
We shall continue to support you to ensure you go from strength to strength. No nation can stand above the quality of its own education. And I believe an institution will require this training. This is the only thing that can make our work easier and move the country forward.
Truly, we need a situation where we are able to minimize these interruptions in our education system. Because that interruption from time to time forces people to look elsewhere. And we lose billions of dollars from our students or their parents paying out money elsewhere outside this country. Our education system is fantastic, even though we still have some work to do. But we need stability.
In recognition of the importance of research to evidence-based policy making, Professor Sulaiman has taken research in the institute to a new level. In the last year, he has commissioned several studies aimed at supporting the work done by the legislature and other democratic institutions in Nigeria. One of the first batch of such studies is that of the public perception of the legislature and expectation of the 9th National Assembly, which was led by Professor Tahiru Jega, a thoroughbred academic and former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The findings from the study have since been transmitted to the National Assembly to assist lawmakers in discharging their core functions in line with what the electorate expects of them.
We are pleased that this is being appreciated, and our colleagues who find themselves in government are increasingly putting this at the forefront in terms of ensuring that our policies and our programs and our general activities in governance are evidence-based and supported by empirical research work. We will do it bearing in mind that we have to add value not only to research, quality of research that we do, but also of the work of the various arms of government, and in particular, in this regard, the work of the National Assembly.
The institute has kept pace with developments both in Nigeria and other parts of the world, and has tailored its research to fit into finding solutions to contemporary challenges. For instance, as the COVID-19 pandemic struck, Professor Sulaiman quickly set up a technical committee to examine the impact of the global crisis to suggest areas for legislative action. The output of the committee's work, which included a legislative framework for health and related emergencies and suggestions on phased reopening of the economy, were transmitted to the National Assembly and have greatly contributed to the debates and decision-making process of both chambers.
While the lockdown was on and while the COVID-19 was ravaging, my institute was working, because governance is not just for the legislature, not just for the executive or for the judiciary. The legislature must be at work. And one of the challenges of the COVID-19 is this issue of governance. It's like trying to bring a new dimension to governance. It's trying to overhaul the essence of governance. It's trying to prioritize our needs, our focus. And for this to be done, therefore, every organs of government, agency that need to play one role or the other must be there to do it. So, our institute is a supporting institute for the legislature, for critical stakeholder in democracy. We were there every now and then, coming out with some legislative initiative in form of motion drafting, in form of bill drafting, while the lockdown was on. I remember there are a lot of health-related bills, motion by some National Assembly members. We were there. We are there to generate most of these issues, so that in their engagement with the executive, they have something, scholarly to back on in terms of policy. That's number one. Number two, during the lockdown, we had this infectious disease bill that generated a lot of controversy. I want to let you know that our institute played active role in analyzing that bill and providing a way out. I don't want to go into the details. What we are doing now is that a study is going on to look at the entire gamut of Nigerian states, Nigerian sectors in the midst of this COVID-19. We look at the issue of health, we look at the issue of education, we look at the issue of environment, we look at the issue of social system. We're coming out with a study that will see Nigerians, not Nigerians of yesterday, Nigerians starting on a new slate now with these current challenges. I think we are the only institute in the country that's doing that with the support of the National Assembly.
The DG has also commissioned a book project to serve as a reference point on all aspects of the COVID-19 pandemic and areas for reform and government action.
I was approached by the leadership of NILDS to do the concept note for a book project on the political economy of the coronavirus pandemics. And in the concept note, I drew attention to the most important, probably frightening aspect of the pandemics, namely that it is going to disrupt the way we do things. It will change the pattern of capitalist accumulation. It will affect different sectors of the economy. It will affect democracy. And looking at the mandate of NILDS, which since 2017 has been broadened, not narrowly dealing with legislative issues, but also democratic issues, we decided to craft the title of the book in such a way that it can encapsulate all the possibilities in terms of the impact of the coronavirus on the global community and Nigeria in particular. The economy, democracy, governance, food, security. All these are issues that are related to the pandemics and we cannot ignore them.
An advocacy for the appreciation of the legislative arm of government at the secondary school level through the FCT quiz competition, which was initiated in 2012, has been sustained by the DJ and expanded to include more schools. The first zonal stage of this year's quiz competition for secondary schools in the FCT held simultaneously across 8 zones: Abaji, Kwali, Gwagwalada, Kuje, Buari, Municipal, Amak North, Amak East and Central of the FCT on Tuesday, January 21, 2020. Out of the planned 94 participating schools drawn from a list of registered public and private schools under the watch of the Federal Capital Territory Secondary Education Board, SEB, 75 participated in the zonal competition. Winners from the zonal stage competed at the final level, which was held on Tuesday, January 28, 2020 at the National Assembly Complex. 8 schools from the 8 zones of FCT participated at the final, where each school was represented by 2 students. To further incentivize participating schools, students and parents to take interest in the legislature and issues of governance, Professor Sulaiman instituted the DG NILDS Scholarship Award for annual winners to cover the cost of tuition in any public university in Nigeria. The winners of the 2020 edition are the first beneficiaries. One of Professor Sulaiman's key areas of reform and focus in the last 1 year has been the expansion of the Institute's collaboration with international and domestic partners and organizations. The DG has focused on identifying new funding opportunities and avenues for collaboration. He spent a considerable time visiting international partners and discussing strategies for institutional enhancements in Nigeria. These include meetings with the Executive Secretary of the African Capacity Building Foundation, ACBF, the country representatives of UNDP, UN Women and the German Technical Cooperation, GTZ, and the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, CARS. Several meetings were also held between the institute and other organizations such as the World Bank, IMF, and the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, where areas of collaboration were identified and discussed. Professor Sulaiman also took his advocacy to other prominent international institutions, including Johns Hopkins University in the United States, and participated in other high-level programs that include the Tokyo International Conference of African Development, TICAD, the Global Governance Summit in Singapore, as well as the inauguration of ECOWAS Parliament in Niamey, Niger Republic. Equal attention and energy have been directed at building partnerships with domestic organizations and sister institutions in Nigeria, including the Independent National Electoral Commission. Since 2015, the Institute has participated in election observation, and this has been expanded to include observation of off-season elections. The reports generated by the Institute have been shared with INEC and the leadership of the National Assembly. Other institutional linkages established under Professor Sulaiman include the Aminu Kano Center for Democratic Research and Training, also known as Mambaya House, Kano, the Nigerian Natural Resource Charter, NNRC, Abuja, Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, PLAC, the Nigerian Army, media organizations such as the Nigeria Television Authority, NTA, the Savannah Center for Diplomacy, Democracy and Development, SCDDD, founded by Professor Ibrahim Gambari, now Chief of Staff to President Muhammadu Buhari.
Gambari is a branch we respect, and now we want to lay on that track. Nigerians come to you, look up to use so many things. Our institute want to maximize every other thing you to drive this process for the good of this country.
No doubt that you would bring to the job the same professionalism, commitment to which for which you are known, and I look forward very, very much to close collaboration, because we have a common cause, because we know that without peace there can be no development, without development there can be no durable peace, and without democracy and the commitment to the rule of law, human rights, and the right of people to choose the government under which they want to live, you will have neither peace nor development.
Since assuming office in May 2019, Professor Sulaiman has made the completion and relocation to the Institute's permanent site a cardinal priority. He thus embarked on a thorough inspection of the site during his first week as DG. He also invited the new leadership of the National Assembly to familiarize themselves with the project and ensure its timely completion.
The importance of an institute such as this is pretty obvious to even the ordinary bystander. This is an institute of research. Research is a critical component of any development of any country. That's why this has to be priority.
As things stand, there is sufficient goodwill and support by the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives for the Institute to relocate by 2021. The Institute's permanent site is located at Piwoi District on the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport Road and occupies 8.12 hectares, that is, an 81,200 meter square of land on plot 307, Cadastral Zone C00, Institutional and Research Layout, Piwoi, Abuja, FCT. The project is being handled by Julius Berger, Nigeria. Upon completion, the ultra-modern infrastructure will enable the Institute carry out its mandate of building capacity among legislators at both the national and regional levels, and to foster collaboration with other organizations and international institutions. As the Institute looks forward to the years ahead, and as Professor Abubakar O.Sulaiman starts his second year as Director General, the prospects for the Institute are numerous, and the future of the great organization appears brighter now than ever before. As it stands, the Institute has not only demonstrated its relevance in strengthening democratic governance in Nigeria, it has also lived up to the expectations of its founding fathers, who envisioned an institute with reach beyond Nigeria. Going forward, the Institute's permanent site is a key resource that needs to be completed and utilized to expand it and actualize its broad mandates of teaching and learning, research and knowledge development. NILDS hopes to remain a high-value legislative service provider on the national, regional and international stage. In the last 1 year, Professor Sulaiman and the team at NILDS have worked hard to improve the overall quality of the services offered by the Institute, not only to the legislature, but also increasingly to other actors in the democratic sphere, including political parties and CSOs. The success of the institution this past year has largely been due to the guidance provided by the Governing Council, led by the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the vision of its Director General, Professor Abubakar O.Sulaiman. Given the determination of Professor Sulaiman and the support he enjoys from the leadership of the National Assembly, the coming years will no doubt see the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies achieve its ambition to be a global hub for legislative learning and center of excellence.